Trippie Redd just weaponized his live stream, and nobody's coming back from what he just said. The rapper went on a rampage calling Coi Leray a female dog in the rawest terms, while simultaneously claiming he's been locked out of seeing his daughter Miyoco, and the internet's still processing whether this was a genuine custody crisis or calculated drama that backfired spectacularly. Here's what actually went down. During a recent live stream, Trippie started venting about not being allowed access to his daughter. The frustration escalated into him directly insulting Coi Leray, using dehumanizing language that made even his most dedicated followers squirm. He was animated, angry, pointing at the camera. This wasn't a cryptic tweet situation. This was raw, streaming in real-time anger that got captured and clipped across every platform within minutes. The internet doesn't move fast anymore. It moves instantly, and this video spread like someone dumped gasoline on a match. The timing here matters. Trippie's been having what appears to be a contentious relationship situation with Coi, who's the mother of his daughter. He's made vague posts before about custody frustrations, but nothing this direct, nothing this venomous. He specifically alleged that he hasn't been allowed visitation, that someone's keeping his daughter from him. Whether that's actually true or partially true or completely misrepresented, we don't know yet. But he said it loudly enough that it overshadowed everything else that came out of his mouth. Twitter absolutely detonated. Trippie's fanbase split down the middle within seconds. One side was sympathetic. He's just a frustrated dad. Fathers get played by mothers all the time. He's calling out a real issue. The other side went nuclear. How do you call the mother of your child that? What kind of example are you setting? Some users pointed out that if he genuinely couldn't see his daughter. There are legal channels, lawyers, courts, custody hearings, not Instagram live streams. The streaming community memed it immediately, and clips started showing up on TikTok with joke captions within hours. Reddit threads exploded with people dissecting every word. Hip-hop forums had competing narratives going simultaneously. Some were asking legitimate questions. Has Trippie actually tried legal representation? Does he have documented proof he's being denied access? Others were just dunking on him for the delivery, the language, the fact that this isn't how you handle custody disputes if you're actually serious. One recurring observation was that nothing productive happens on livestream. So if he really believed he couldn't see his daughter, why go this route instead of immediately contacting a family law attorney? Coi Leray didn't stay quiet. She responded, though her tone was measured compared to Trippie's explosion. She essentially rejected the framing that she's preventing him from seeing Miyoco, suggesting that his version of events is incomplete or inaccurate. She pointed out that using that language about someone, regardless of the custody situation, crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. Her response was strategic. She didn't match his energy, which actually made him look worse in comparison. When one person stays calm and articulate, while the compers and the perster's ranting, the ranter always looks worse in hindsight. She also made it clear that Miyoco shouldn't be dragged into public beef, which touched a nerve for a lot of observers who agreed that the child shouldn't be a bargaining chip in a streaming moment. What's emerged from people actually tracking this situation? The custody arrangements might be more complicated than Trippie presented. There are apparently agreed-upon terms, visitation schedules, and potentially some restrictions that exist for reasons neither parties fully explained. Some sources suggest there may have been incidents that led to supervised visitation or specific conditions, but nothing's been officially confirmed. That gap between what he claimed and what might actually be the legal reality is crucial. You can be frustrated with custody arrangements and still be misrepresenting them for dramatic effect. The hip-hop community's response has been notably reserved. Older rappers and mentors aren't exactly rushing to defend him. The messaging is basically, handling family stuff in public is always a bad look, especially when kids are involved. Some female artists specifically called out the language, framing it as part of a larger pattern of disrespect toward women in rap not unique to Trippie, but emblematic of a problem. damages his brand, or if it's Tuesday in 2026 and everyone's moved on by next week. His label hasn't said anything, which is telling. Silence from a label usually means, don't make this worse. There's also the question of whether Trippie understood his own audience before hitting that stream button. His fanbase skews young. He's got a huge teenage demographic. Watching your favorite artist have a meltdown about his kid's mother using that specific language isn't exactly inspirational content. Some parents who've been okay with his music are now reassessing. Merchandise sales haven't tanked yet, but the damage to his public persona is real. You can't unsay something broadcast to millions in real time. What makes this particularly messy? If Trippie genuinely is being denied access to his daughter, he actually has legitimate grievances. Custody disputes are genuinely complicated, and parental alienation is a real thing that happens. But he obliterated any sympathy by how he handled it. He turned what could have been a sympathetic narrative, a father fighting for access to his child, into a moment where people are discussing his treatment of women and his emotional regulation. The method completely undermined the message. Legal experts who weighed in noted that nothing he said on that live stream helps his actual case. If this goes to court, or if it's already been through court, every single thing he said is now part of the record. He's given Coi's legal team ammunition. He's demonstrated poor judgment and an inability to manage his emotions. In family law, that matters. Judges look at that. If he's already lost custody or visitation because of previous incidents, this just makes it harder to regain it. Going viral with your frustrations is the opposite. The deeper issue that keeps surfacing in conversations. Why does calling out potential unfair custody situations have to come with dehumanizing language toward the other parent? Plenty of people are asking if he could have expressed his frustration without the misogyny. The answer is obviously yes, but he didn't. He chose anger over strategy, which is understandable in the moment, but disastrous long-term. His supporters who tried to defend him kept running into the same wall. Okay, maybe he has legitimate grievances, but did you hear how he talked about her? Coi's been dealing with her own share of scrutiny in the broader music industry. She's had her moments of controversy, her own drama, but in this specific situation, she positioned herself as the adult in the room. Whether that's her actual approach or just savvy media management doesn't really matter, because the perception is what shapes his reputation. She came across as someone protecting her child, while he came across as someone using his daughter as a prop in an emotional breakdown. What happens next probably depends on what the actual legal situation is. If there are genuine custody disputes being litigated, both of them went completely off the rails by discussing it publicly. If this was just frustration over normal visitation schedules, then Trippie massively overreacted. If there's more to the story than either of them said, we probably won't know unless court documents become public, which they might if this somehow ends up in formal proceedings. The music industry's short-term memory usually works in artists' favor. In a month, there'll be some other controversy. Someone will drop a surprise album or get involved in some other beef, and this might fade. But Trippie's just added a permanent layer to his public profile. Whenever he's discussed now, this moment's in there. It's the kind of thing interviewers will eventually ask about. The kind of moment that defines how people remember a particular era of his career. For his fan base, this is a fork in the road. Some fans are dismissing it, moving past it, treating it as irrelevant to his music. Others are reassessing whether they want to support someone who carries himself this way. Neither group's necessarily wrong. People have different standards for separating art from artist. But that separation just got a lot harder for a significant percentage of his audience. The streaming platforms didn't immediately take action on the clip, which is notable. It's borderline violating community standards depending on which platform it happened on, but it's also possible they're treating it as newsworthy content that people deserve to see, rather than problematic content that needs removal. The distinction matters because it's essentially saying, this is important information about who this person is, which is actually worse for Trippie than if they'd just deleted it and moved on. If this situation somehow resolves, if he regains access to his daughter, or if custody arrangements change, the way he handled this story, he didn't just damage his image, he created a historical record of himself losing control in exactly the kind of situation where control is everything. Every custody evaluator, every judge, every person reviewing his fitness as a parent has now seen him at his worst, unfiltered, completely unguarded. The final angle that keeps coming up. Trippie's built a lot of his recent appeal on a certain kind of authenticity and rawness. His fans appreciate that he doesn't filter himself, that he speaks his truth, that he doesn't apologize for being real. But this moment tested whether that rawness is actually authenticity or just a lack of boundaries. There's a massive difference between being real and being reckless. What we're left with is an image of Trippie completely unraveling over a situation he apparently didn't handle correctly beforehand. He didn't lawyer up. He didn't go through proper channels. He went to livestream and weaponized his platform to vent anger that he couldn't contain. If that's his actual approach to serious problems, it explains a lot about how he might have ended up in whatever custody situation he's claiming to be suffering under. Accountability circles back, and right now, accountability's not Trippie's strongest quality. The industry's watching because this is a cautionary tale about what happens when you blur the lines between your personal life and your public platform. There's no separating his music from this moment anymore. Every future interview, every documentary, every career retrospective will have to address it. He's permanently altered how he's perceived, and for a career built on momentum and image, that's genuinely significant damage done in one live stream.